So welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. Always glad that you're here with me today. I don't know if you watched a couple of days ago, but we made this fantastic, big, beautiful pot of brown sugar chili, and we ladled it on these cheese grits, and it is one that just goes for miles and feeds a crowd. Well, let me tell you, I always have when I make that recipe, I think I told you that recipe makes about, with the grits on the bottom, you can make probably 8 to 10 good bowls, but there's always just a little tiny bit of chili left that it just kills you to run it down the sink, and it's not quite enough for a bowl, or two for anybody, just a little. And so I always, like it never fails, we have brown sugar chili one day, and the next day we have chili dogs. Aren't chili dogs so good? They are like a guilty pleasure, aren't they? Delicious. And with the Razorbacks, we are just in the throes of like good football season, and this October schedule is like so awesome. So I thought I would show y'all how we follow up with our little bit of leftovers from our chili and make these beautiful, luscious, so good Gameday chili dogs. And we load them up. We load them with chili. We make them with queso. I'm going to show you my queso recipe that we make. We put cheese. Sometimes we do pimento cheese. We make them piled high. Red onions, avocado, you name it. Whatever we can put on top is what we'll put on top. And so I thought we would just take our little leftovers and do some Gameday chili dogs. That sound good? And I'll just tell you, we used to have a football player at Harbor, and now we don't. So on the nights that we don't go to the games, we stay at home on like Friday nights. And you can actually watch high school football on like YouTube channels now. So this would even be fun to make for like a Friday night if you were home. Okay, so I've got probably 2 cups of my chili left, is about what I had. And I've got my little warmer, and I'm just going to put this right back here on my little burner and let that just kind of heat. Let's say that. Come on now. Over low heat. Okay? We're just going to let that kind of do its thing back there. And then we are going to make my queso. Now, this is kind of how, the phrase in my house that we say is hot dogs and cheese dip. Hot dogs and cheese dip. That's what my boys say. We want hot dogs and cheese dip. And that, I don't know where that kind of came from, but it's how they love it. They love hot dogs, and they cannot have them without cheese dip. So I thought I'd show you how I make my queso. It is super easy. We are not people who love a chunky queso. A lot of people do. We like a little bit more of like a creamy queso. And there are all kinds of recipes, and listen, I've tried them all, where you do, brown some ground beef or some sausage, or you put a can of chili or something in it, and it's all chunky. We are of the creamy variety. That's our favorite. Really no chunks of anything. We like to be really smooth, really creamy, and spicy. That's how we like it. So here's how we make our queso. Okay, so I've just got my little pan here, and this is a 1-pound block of mild Mexican velveeta. It's so good. It already has some seasoning in it and some spices, and probably looks like maybe some little peppers or jalapenos in it. It's really good. Y'all, we should have stock in velveeta. I don't cook with just tons of processed food. This one is at the top of my list. It is so good. Nothing melts like it. And I'll tell you this, I have tried some of those fancy queso recipes where you start almost like with a roux base. You actually do like a little flour and a little liquid, and you create like a thickening agent, and then you melt cheese in it. And it's good. There is just nothing like velveeta. There is not. We had a really funny conversation lately on my Instagram account, which is Unimaze, E-U-N-A-M-A-E-S. I love to visit with people over there, and we had the funniest conversation over there the other day about how hard it is at the grocery store to find velveeta. Doesn't it seem like it's always in about 10 different places? Sometimes it's refrigerated. Sometimes it's by the Mexican food. Sometimes, I mean, it's just, you never know. Sometimes it's on an end. But we have our 1 pound. And then to make it creamy, I'm adding in 4 ounces of cream cheese. And it doesn't have to be like room temperature softened or anything. I didn't do it anyway because it's going to get warm and it's going to melt down and break down all by itself. And I'm just going to put all of this together and put it on low heat and just let it take its time melting. And we're going to melt and stir when we're making our hot dogs. Okay, and then for our little bit of liquid to it, just to give it a little bit of smooth, we're going to add a little half and half. And then when we come back, we're going to add all of our spices and our seasonings and all the stuff that is going to make this so creamy and good and spicy. This is Cooking Today. Come back.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We are making loaded Gameday chili dogs and my favorite creamy queso that we eat at our house. So let me tell you what we've going on. I'm using actually my leftover brown sugar chili that we made earlier because I had about, I don't know, 2 cups, cup and a half or so. Not enough for a bowl, but plenty enough to pile on a couple of chili dogs. And I was just thinking this. I've got my chili going, but you wouldn't have to use leftover chili. You can absolutely go buy canned chili or use your own chili if you wanted. But, if you just wanted to go and heat a can of whatever's your favorite brand of chili, then do that. That is easy, but we're using a leftover because we had it. So I've also got my queso going, and all I've got is a 1 pound block of mild Mexican velveeta that I've cubed, and then I did a couple of ounces of cream cheese, a little bit of half and half, and now I'm adding in probably somewhere between a half of a teaspoon and a teaspoon. I know that's not a real measurement, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it. It's not full, it's kind of a scant teaspoon. I added in some garlic. I'm adding in some chili powder and then some cumin to give it a little bit more seasoning. And like I said, we're not scoop up a tomato or scoop up a piece of meat or scoop up what else goes in queso? Bean. Those are not our things. We really like it to just be really good and creamy, and where we just kind of dip it and then spoon this on top of our chili dogs. Y'all, it's really good. Good little guilty pleasure. Then, y'all have seen me use these before. These are those cans, let's see, of the diced jalapeno peppers. I love these partly for the peppers, but a lot for the juice. Like when we've made garlic cheese grits before, like with our shrimp and grits, we made those jalapeno ones. We're actually spooned in some of the liquid that's inside of these. And that's what I'm doing today. I want a couple of teaspoons of this liquid that's in these jalapenos. If you don't mind scooping up a little bite of something, in your queso, then you could actually do the liquid and the jalapenos in here, and it would be really good. And then, normally we're in the South, we love our, Rotel cheese dip, don't we? This is a little bit uncanny. I am using all of the liquid out of the can because there's a lot of heat in it, but I'm not using the tomatoes. How about that? Now, I say that. There's always like one tomato that hops out or something that kind of squeezes out and goes on in. You don't have to dump the whole thing. It's perfectly fine. But, I'm giving this the good old-fashioned Brenda Nelson wring out. That's my mom. She can wring out a can till it is bone dry. I don't know how she does it. It's like her spiritual gift. But I've got that lid in there, so be careful. But I'm squeezing those. Sorry, I'm getting tickled. I'm squeezing those till they get all the liquid out. Oh, that's so good. Okay, then if you wanted to save these for something else, then you can. There's all kinds of casseroles and things. And then that's it. So what we're gonna do is put this on the stove over very low, because you don't want the cheese to scald, you know, and it can. So we're gonna let this have plenty of time to cook. Cook down, cook down. Okay, I've just got it on kind of like low heat, about a 3 or so. Okay, so we've got our good queso. Now, you know the rule, you have to taste as you go. So as that cooks down and melts down and all that, you're gonna wanna be sure to get your little tasting spoon in there and taste for seasoning. You may want more chili powder. Sometimes I add more of this liquid in there. I just love this flavor. You know, so you can just kind of taste as you go and make it yours. You may want it a little thinner. If you want it even thinner, then you could add a little bit more of the half and half or milk, whatever you've got. Okay, let me tell you, we're gonna move on to our hot dogs. Did you know that there's a really great way to cook hot dogs inside? They are so good. And I'm not talking about poking holes, sticking them on a plate in the microwave. That is no fun. We are going to do this version of making these hot dogs like I saw one time on Food Network like 1,000 years ago. And I honestly can't even tell you who I saw cook them this way, but it was really, really good. And we have almost decided that we think we like them better than grilled. I know, can you believe that? Because grilled hot dogs are so good. This is a fun little indoor way we're gonna do it. But before we get it into our braiser, we're gonna lay our buns down real quick and give them a little toast. These are gorgeous Harps hot dog buns, and they're fresh bakery. I mean, they smell, divine. They're a little tiny bit sweet, which I love because we're about to put all this spicy rich on top. But they do have to be split, okay? So all I've got is a hot braiser. I'm gonna drizzle a little tiny bit of oil in the bottom and lay them face down and let them get a little toast. And then when we come back, we're gonna go what may become your new favorite hot dog method. We're making Game Day chili dogs. This is Cooking Today.
Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton.
Experience the local sounds, sights, and taste of the Fayetteville Farmers Market.
Do you know the producer behind your food?
What about how far away your food was grown?
Local to us means your food is harvested hours before traveling less than 60 miles to our market.
Enjoy music, chef demos, and special events while you shop for locally grown produce, meats, cheeses, flowers, artisan crafts, fine art, and more.
Visit us Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on the square.
The Fayetteville Farmers Market, 100% local and loved.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We are having loaded Game Day chili dogs. Isn't that so fun? Such a splurge. Really good though, right? Nothing makes watching football any better than chili dogs and queso, if you ask me. If you ask my boys, for sure, that's their favorite. So we have our queso that has melted on the stove. It's getting nice and smooth. Our little leftover chili is heating up on the stove. You can use store-bought canned if you need to. We opened our pretty buns from Harps and just toasted those. All I did is put them in my braiser. Aren't they pretty? The color is beautiful. I opened these and I just put them in my braiser with a little bit of oil swirl in the bottom so they got kind of crisp. And then I just folded them back over and let them stay kind of warm and toasty on themselves. Then, my braiser's hot. I've got my braiser. There was a little bit of oil in the bottom of it from when I toasted the buns. So here's my favorite method of cooking a hot dog. I know that a lot of you poke holes in your hot dogs and microwave them, and in a pinch, do it if you must. I kind of judged real quick right there. But you know what happens? What happens that, you know, when you cook them in the microwave is you're cooking them in the middle and getting them hot, but you're not crisping the outside. Then there are some of you who, this is how my mom did it, and they were so good. And then Timmy and I were just talking about this. You can just put them in a skillet with some butter or some oil and just, you know, this is how my mom did it. She would do butter and oil both, and then she would just give them a little shake, 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 and kind of roll them around. and then you're crisping the outside, but you're not really cooking through the middle. So we've got one method that cooks the inside, and we had one method that cooked the outside. So this method, I don't even know what you would call it, is a two-part method where you actually cook the hot dogs first till they plump up nice and big, because we're basically boiling them first. Then we're going to drain all of the water off and then crisp the outside. So you'll actually see them when you boil them, they plump up. You're cooking through the center, and they get tender, and they aren't rubbery. Then we crisp the outside under kind of on high heat. They get so brown and beautiful. It is such a good bite, and then all the things we're going to put on top, delicious. So I have my brazier. I have got it turned up on power boil on my burner. And then I like bun-length beef hot dogs. I think that beef is a little bit less creepy than the other. And, you know, we don't really want to know what's in a hot dog, do we? We just want to be able to eat them. And I love the bun length, because otherwise sometimes they kind of shrink up. And look at all that good bun that we've got. We want it to be full from one end to the other. And then the more meat we've got, the more, you know, base we have, our foundation for all of the good stuff we're going to put on top. So I just have a little, it's like almost like a shallow layer. It's not really like a boil. Like we're not completely submerging the hot dogs in here. And I'm just going to use my fingers. I don't even need those tongs. But I can already see that little action starting. And all I'm going to do is lay them in the bottom of my brazier. See how they're almost, it's just almost coming to the top, but not completely. And I'll also tell you this too. If you'll start with your hot dogs room temperature, where they're already, you know, they're not completely freezing cold and firm. We've let them sit at room temperature for a little bit before we've put them in, and that even helps even more kind of cook the inside, get them good and tender on the inside, and then we'll crisp them on the outside. Okay, I'm only going to do about that many. And they're starting, yeah, you can see the water starting to have a little activity, and we're going to let those boil. And I'm going to kind of keep my eyes on them and see what happens there. And you'll see them actually fill out just a little bit, because they're getting good and cooked on the inside. And I don't poke holes. I know some people believe in poking holes in their hot dogs. I don't. I think they're just fine that way. I do believe if you stuck them in the microwave, you would want to do that, but we're not doing them in the microwave. So these will cook. Yeah, they're starting to already, they go in kind of straight, and then they start to kind of bend a little bit. But I'm just going to kind of give them a little turnover just to be sure that every little bit is in the water. And we're going to let them boil for a few minutes. And then all we're going to do is I take one of my little paper towel line trays, you know, I have like 1,000 of these, pull the hot dogs out, and then dump the water in the sink, and then just swirl it with a little bit of grease, or not grease, but oil, and then put them back in on high heat and just roll them around. They're just delicious, and they get the most beautiful brown color. You're just going to love them. And in the meantime, I have shredded some cheese. I've got some sour cream in the refrigerator. I am going to chop some red onion, maybe a little green onion, just the little green parts. So we've got some beautiful toppings to load up on these. When we come back, I'm going to show you what these look like coming off of that good toasty, step. You're going to love these. This is Cooking Today.
Candy sponsored by Mars.
Hi, welcome back. Look at this spread. Doesn't it look like game day right here? Okay, so let's talk about these hot dogs. So our method for cooking a hot dog, if you take home nothing else than this today, Try this method at home. A little shallow water, bring those hot dogs to a boil till they get nice and plump. You don't want them to split, but they get so nice, and then dump the water out and wipe your pan out. You don't want water and oil to mix because it'll pop on you. Put that right back on there. I drizzled it with a little bit of oil and crisped these hot dogs. They look like they came right off the grill. Look, don't those look beautiful? They plumped up and they're tender. Then we have our pretty buns that we've toasted, and I'm gonna split them and put those in there. We're gonna pile them with our leftover reheated brown sugar chili. And then we've got our creamy queso we're gonna drizzle right across the top. I have chopped red onion, a little green parts off of the scallions. We have 2 kinds of cheese, sour cream, jalapenos, and you know what? I'll be straight up honest with you. I might even put bacon on the top because it's game day, it's a hot dog, and you might as well, right? This is game day food at its best. Go Hogs. This is cooking today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company. Kitchenware is provided by Una Mays. Groceries provided by Harps, Hometown Fresh. Online Elements sponsored by Fayetteville Farmers Market.